The strange story of Operation Sunbeam. The year is 1990, and the place is the Sofia area village of Tsarichina, a completely ordinary village, say the people who still live there today, or at least that is how it was until December 6, 1990. Today, the events of 1990 in Tsarichina are commemorated only by a large stone bearing the inscription. The whole? In fact, it is neither authentic nor does it mark the exact location of the events described below. It stands there symbolically, reminding visitors of a story with many versions, each with its own followers and advocates. Nearly 30 years ago, the General Staff of the Bulgarian Army launched a secret operation near Sofia codenamed Sunbeam. In an era without cameras, mobile phones, or the internet that everyone has today, only locals, the military personnel themselves, and a handful of those in power knew about the presence of uniformed forces in Tsarichina. The servicemen began excavations that lasted almost 2 years, but the public would learn about the major search in the small village only a few months before the project ended. The most famous hole in Bulgaria. Thus, military trucks and heavy equipment arrived in Tsarichina, tall military fences were erected, and digging began. First in one place, then another. At first glance, it was not even obvious that excavation was taking place, because the underground tunnel itself was hidden beneath a low military tent. Any local who dared to inquire about what was being sought in the otherwise unremarkable village was sent away with an unfriendly warning. Only senior officers took part directly in the difficult excavation work using basic tools, while soldiers merely transported the material in an unknown direction. As a result, it is possible that even they themselves did not know exactly what was being sought. What were they looking for in the Tsarichina hole? Initially, the military's goal was to discover the treasure of Tsar Samuel and his brother Aaron, based on information received from a local resident. According to his account, he had a strange dream and decided to report it to the General Staff of the Bulgarian Army through a friend from the association. Phenomena. That is how the military received information that Samuel's treasure was buried somewhere in Tsarichina. The question of why the army undertook a treasure hunt, rather than passing the information to a team of archaeologists, for example, is intriguing. Even more intriguing is the fact that civilian experts would be involved in the endeavor, specifically people with supposed supernatural abilities, psychics. It was precisely their discovery that changed the original objective, and the team set off in search of something greater and more valuable. The principal of the 3 psychics working on site in the secret zone, Elisaveta Lajanova, received information that something far more important than treasure was actually located there. She assumed the role of a contactee with a higher extraterrestrial intelligence, then called Sorrel, who transmitted information about the location of a sarcophagus containing the first bisexual human being ever to have lived on Earth. Such a discovery could have brought fame to Bulgaria and given the world new knowledge about our origins. Daily, The contactee established communication with the extraterrestrial team, which guided the military on how to proceed on site, in which direction to dig, and how to plan the blasts in the excavation. By November 1992, a vertical spiral tunnel 168 meters long had been excavated without special heavy machinery and without supports such as those used in mines. According to some reports, up to a depth of 100 meters the military did not dig but rather cleared an already existing tunnel with no scientific explanation as to who had dug it or when. The mission was terminated after nearly 2 years of grueling labor and no results. Why was the project stopped? The ambitious project to discover the first bisexual being to inhabit the planet was supported, or at least appeared to be, by several commanders who rotated during that period. The secret mission received funding under several ministers of defense, the last of whom was Alexander Staliaski. After taking office and reviewing the facts of the previous 2 years, Staliaski demanded explanations, and within just 24 hours the Tsarichina digging was halted. This time, a commission of scientists and specialists, geologists, historians, archaeologists, was formed to assess progress results and to give an opinion on the value of continuing the already renamed Operation Glory. The conclusion was unequivocal: the Tsarichina expedition had to be terminated. There is, however, another version or circumstance regarding the cessation of the excavations and their subsequent sealing. According to this version, the mission's objective had been achieved. The first contact in Bulgaria with extraterrestrial intelligence had been established, and extremely precise information and new knowledge had been transmitted. As for the skeleton of the first human being, the extraterrestrial intelligence itself stated that the time for its discovery had not yet come, because it emitted energy that humans would not be able to withstand. The myths surrounding Tsarichina, many rankings list the hole in Tsarichina as one of the most sinister places in Bulgaria. Despite numerous films and materials on the subject, the story of the military operation in the village continues to fascinate today, with every adventurer hoping to find a new fact or witness previously unknown. Thus myths are born. According to witnesses of the events of the 1990s, myths about the Tsarichina case and others proliferate due to a thirst for mysticism and paranormal phenomena. Some claim that the military discovered something so terrifying and unprecedented that it forced them to abort the mission, and that documents related to the case disappeared. As has become clear, the tunnel led nowhere. Neither a tomb nor other objects or artifacts of historical or scientific value were found. There are also claims that many of the soldiers and officers involved in the Tsarichina digging, as well as their relatives, fell ill or suffered accidents, and that the equipment used during the excavations malfunctioned. During the on-site work, however, there were no collapses or reports of injured servicemen. What exactly the military discovered there remains a mystery to this day. The curse of Tsarichina still haunts the military. The Tsarichina curse continues to haunt military personnel to this day. half of the officers and soldiers who took part in the mysterious excavations went mad or fell ill. Their colleagues have stated. One of them currently works at a small company near Sofia. He does not wish to speak about his participation in Operation Glory. A colleague explained that he had experienced everything very painfully. You don't know what he went through. Don't look for him anymore, she said firmly. A friend of the officer claims that he linked his participation in the mysterious excavations to a surgery on his throat. Most of the participants later left the army and seemed not to be mentally well. Whether that is coincidence or not, I can't say, says a former colleague. Another participant's wife developed a psychological disorder. Years after Tsarichina, the incidents continued. The tragedy is that young men fell ill. A young lieutenant died, some got sick. Of course, this could be coincidence, and it is also questionable whether already ill people were sent to Tsarichina, commented Major General Stefan Dimitrov. I learned about Radnyu Minchev and Delcho Naplatinov back then as well. I don't know whether there is a connection to the case, or if it's just coincidence, added Major General Stoman Stoimanov, the father of the psychic Alai Lodjanova, who guided the military through the Tsarichina tunnels, barely survived a car accident in 2006. Her husband died shortly after the excavations. Some died, others crashed their cars, some suffered heart attacks, one got lost in the mountains. Recounts a woman from Tsarichina who worked in close proximity to the hole. Rina Todorinova, also a resident of the village, says that because of the incident she was afraid to approach the hole when it was being sealed. At that very moment, a journalist approached the excavation, felt ill, and fainted, so I didn't dare go anywhere near it. Todorinova recounts, from the very beginning of the excavations, a series of incidents involved those engaged in them. In addition to the severe illness of General Radnyu Minchev just 2 months after the operation began, the first casualty occurred on February 8, 1991. Marina Naplatinova, the daughter of the head of the technical department and herself a participant as a psychic, was found dead. The police explanation was that she had jumped from the 10th floor of the apartment building where she lived, and that it was a suicide, where the military searching for Tsar Samuel's gold. For 2 years, officers of the Bulgarian Army cleared a tunnel about 140 meters long. They searched for treasure, remains of a being, or extraterrestrial technology. They found none, yet this did not prevent the emergence of one of the greatest mysteries in Bulgarian history, also known as the Tsarichina case. Despite the site's ominous reputation, it continues to attract Bulgarians from all over the country like a magnet. Everyone wants to know what exactly the military were searching for. Today, the site is a bare meadow. Long ago, bulldozers poured tons of concrete into the tunnel opening so that no one would even think of digging again. It is said that initially they were searching for Tsar Samuel's treasure. Historians claim that such a treasure does not exist at all, But that did not stop the military from arriving in Tsarichina on December 6, 1990, and beginning to dig. They worked with pickaxes and shovels. Only uniformed personnel labored, while local villagers were kept away from the site. The Army's secretive actions provided fertile ground for all kinds of rumors. According to them, the military had several hypotheses about what they might find. In addition to Samuel's treasure, they hoped to discover extraterrestrial technology or a prehistoric being that would change our understanding of where we came from and how we arrived on this earth. Unfortunately, our progenitor was not found, and the military spent 16 million leva on their adventure. Did the head of the Tsarichina operation talk to aliens? The head of the Tsarichina excavation operation, Gen. Lyubomir Denev, meticulously recorded conversations with an extraterrestrial civilization. Nikolai Daskalov, Deputy Minister of Defense in the government of Philip Dimitrov, told 168 Hours. According to him, the dialogues were conducted with the mediation of the psychic Elisaveta Lajanova. His notebook wasn't big. There were no hieroglyphs, just text in Bulgarian. Gen. Dinev showed it to me, read me a few things and put it away. I don't remember specifics, but I remember that there was an imitation of old Bulgarian sounding language in the answers they received from the extraterrestrials. Daskalov laughed. According to him, that was the big question. Why would this alien civilization, if it knows Bulgarian, not just tell us plainly what it wants to say, but instead force us to dig like madmen? To this day, it remains unclear where Lajanova's notebooks disappeared. In Lajanova's 5 notebooks, there were all kinds of drawings, imitations of hieroglyphs, an occasional Arabic or Roman numeral. There was everything in there. Daskalov recalls, I personally did not take them from her. The only person she could have given them to was Gen. Dinev. It's true that at one point, Dinev carried those notebooks with him, but I really don't know what happened to them. The only thing that is clear is that the 16 million disappeared around the excavations, and some people sensed the project's financial attractiveness. 168 Hours sought Gen. Dinev for comment, but he did not answer his mobile phone. In our last conversation, he said, a lot of nonsense has been written, and I don't want to talk. I wrote an article. I think it was in 24 hours, and that ended the topic. Gen. Dinev said, this is not Bulgaria's topic right now. In years we can return to it and talk again, when the time comes. Now it's pointless. I advise you not to deal with it. At the time, he did not rule out that years later Operation Tsarichina might again become a topical subject. From Lajanova's office, they said she would return from vacation on September 12. So far, she has refused to speak with 168 Hours. In the next issue, expect to learn who the mysterious head of the military's scientific department was and details about his enigmatic death. Kubrat Toma V. It was a real bomb. They could have found the bisexual human, but they buried the whole. Mr. Tomov, at what stage did you join the Tsarichina excavation operation? First of all, I must clarify that I was never consulted during the preparation and execution of the operation until the SDS government came to power with the intention of reassessing the situation and deciding what to do. Then one day, General Lyubin Petrov stopped me in front of my apartment building and said, "Mr. Tumov, we want you to be the reviewer of the Tsarichina operation." He gave me all the materials, commission protocols, reports by geologists, geophysicists, psychologists, phenomenologists, as well as Eli Loginova's book. I read everything and, after thorough analysis, wrote my conclusion over 5 pages. In my assessment, I drew 2 conclusions. First, all participants acted unprofessionally. They were not professionals. They lacked the capacity for this work because the undertaking was on a completely different level and depth for which they had no preparation. This applies to everyone: scientists, phenomenologists, Stamen, all of them. And second, the problem remains open, but it requires a professional approach. Does that mean you believe there really was something there? One of my psychics, when we talked about Tsarichina, said, "Down there, a bit further down, there is a settlement of primitive people. Where the bisexual human Vanga spoke about is likely located." As for Stamenov's stories about Samuel's treasure, this was probably just to attract attention or based on erroneous information. But the worst thing is that they closed the case, and there was a bomb waiting for us there. Why was the operation terminated? Because a lot of money was spent, and there were many suspicions of abuse and embezzlement. Where did those 16 million leva go? Where? The main argument is that there was nothing there, right? No, that is not a real argument, because this was an attempt. Something may or may not be there, but the issue is how the money was spent. This could not have cost more than $500,000. $1 million at most, excuse me. Especially since the people there were salaried and under military discipline. So it truly was a complete abuse of power and trust. You reviewed the documentation. Was there anything about a discovery? There is not a single word stating that anything was discovered. At the same time, I will remind you that UFOs were repeatedly observed by local residents around the hole, coming and entering into the ground, because they have the ability to pass through solid objects. Locals told us only that they saw a glowing orb above the church. That's another fact. So the problem remains open. Bulgaria is full of secrets. There are many undiscovered treasures and tunnels. Were there diagrams or calculations of the expenses? No. The only thing I remember from the description is that the elevation difference was about 40 meters. Did Gen Dinev tell you what he had collected in his notebook? No. That was not given to me. I only saw Loginova's notes. What did they contain? Nothing familiar to me, but I am not a professional either. They looked like some kind of hieroglyphs, but it could also be imagination. Did you speak with Loginova? What do you think of her? We didn't talk. Her book and her statements were enough for me. Perhaps she has certain extrasensory abilities, but only that. They are not maximal and not mastered, and that applies to almost all psychics. They lack self-critical assessment of their limits, which is why when they go to a place like Tsarichina, things turn out as they did. How then did she manage to influence such a serious organization as the Ministry of Defense? My hypothetical explanation is that she may have demonstrated some clairvoyance, read something about one of the senior officers, guessed something, and secondly, the military's inclination to make some money. What do you think could be discovered there? One possibility is what they talk about, the bisexual human. The other is a settlement of very primitive people. Keep in mind that humans have existed on Earth for hundreds of thousands, even millions of years. When you say the participants were not at the level of what they were searching for, do you believe the claims about the bisexual human? I accept it as a hypothesis. It is consistent with the science of evolution and the origin of humans, because in the past humans were created as bisexual in one body. Later they were divided to evolve as men and women, and after this process ends, they will reunite and the sexes will disappear. What are the arguments for such a hypothesis? I have encountered it in literature concerning the emergence of life on Earth. It is not a new idea. Why do you say they approached the Tsarichina phenomenon unprofessionally? The main reason is that our elite has not risen through true professionalism, but through subordination, party affiliation, and obedience. Can we learn more about Tsarichina today, after everything has been buried? It is very difficult to reconstruct the operation, but there is still something to be found. That is my conclusion.